Okay, I'd like to call the August 15th, 2023 City Council Workshop for the City of Lake City to order. Ladies and gentlemen, the Lake City Council has opened its public meeting since 1968. The City Code has prohibited any person from making personal or pertinent or slanderous remarks or becoming boisterous by addressing the City Council. Yelling or making audible comments from the audience constitutes boisterous conduct. Such conduct will not be tolerated. There's only one approved manner of addressing the City Council, that is to be recognized to speak from the podium. As a reminder, persons are not to openly carry a handgun or carry a concealed weapon or firearm while the governing body is meeting. Ms. Cannon, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Jernigan?
Here.
Mr. Hill? Ms. Young? Mr. Sampson?
Here.
Mayor Witt?
Here.
Mr. Dial?
Here.
Mr. Kennon?
Here.
Chief Butler?
Okay, we're here for the budget for 2023 and 24. Enterprise fund, gas, GRS, distribution, collection. Is that it? Okay. I had the wrong one. Here we go. General fund, CRA, fire, airport. Okay. All right, it's general fund, CRA, and fire and airport. Mr. Dow, you want to start us off?
Yes, sir, Mayor. Mayor and council, first of all, I'd like to thank, staff for all the time and effort they put into this year's budget. It's been a challenging year with all the price increases on material and operating supplies. The staff was able to put together a balanced budget for the 2023-2024 year. Also includes a 3% cost of living for the general employees. The union members are on their, we're basing theirs on their contracts and their papers. We're also having a decrease in insurance premiums this year for the staff based on changing insurance companies. We're saving several $100,000 for the city on that. And everything else in here is just basically not many capital projects this year, especially on the utility side. We tried to cut back as much as we can because of the price of materials and everything. We're trying to save as much as we can and focus more on maintenance this year, but it's still going to be expensive based on the cost of materials and the chemicals and things that we need to operate and run the plants with. Yes, sir.
Excuse me, when does that insurance take effect?
It
When
will
does
take effect October 1st.
Okay.
Other than that, Mayor and Council, we can just go through the budget.
Okay.
Y'all have any questions for staff or administration?
I appreciate everything y'all did to get this budget put together. I know it's a hard job, especially in these times, and we appreciate it. Okay, on the revenue and expenditures, just a summary. Anybody got any questions on that?
And basically, the big difference you'll see on that, Mayor, is basically, we're down about $3 million from last year, and that's basically, most of that is in the sales tax block.
Okay. Okay, we'll go to the general fund. Any questions on those pages?
Mr. Mayor, I only had one question on the general fund. On 001-362, I saw we split that into 2 units. Is that just to separate the blank from other rentals?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and the other rentals, what are those? Are those like?
The SBA tower
Okay.
agreement that we have.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else got anything? Yeah, summary of the expenditures, we'll get to this by item for each department. Okay, the first one is city council. Questions on that?
The only one on this, Mayor, that I'd like to bring up, this year we were asked to put a enterprise fleet vehicle in for the council for use. And that's one of the different things that you'll see that was added this year. And basically, if there's any discussion or comments on that, how y'all want to proceed with that and what kind of vehicle the council wants to acquire for council use. If that's the direction the council wants to go, like I said, I was just asking for their discussion.
I would say something like a little small SUV. If we all had to travel somewhere, I would call it pretty comfortable.
Now, what if we're going back to the League of Cities and there's 3 or 4 of the families, how we decide?
Oh, we're gonna take the RP. We're gonna take the RP.
Would we be better off just renting something as we need it?
That's not a bad idea, man.
I mean, if we say you're going to something that you're going to and it's a couple of times a year, and all, I think it'd be maybe more practical if we just rented for that weekend. I mean, that's just an idea I had.
Well, if not, we can continue to do what we've been doing in the past, or when y'all be one of the city vehicles, that's what I'm saying.
Yes, sir. I mean, that's generally what, we have been doing. And to the mayor's point, you have going in separate directions. Like last time, we need to get 2 vehicles for you and Ms. Young. Like I said, this could either be another vehicle that could be utilized during work hours of the city and have available for the council members, plus any available vehicles that staff would have that wouldn't be used that afternoon. Because most of the things that you all do are in the afternoons, but if there's something that needs to be done during the day, we can always make accommodations for that as well.
If it was used like that, like you're saying, for, the city during the main time and all of that, we just use it occasionally. And all that may add to it and make it feasible to do it.
So you're saying, get the vehicle, but it will be parked during the day unless somebody needed the vehicle?
Well, we always have a need for an extra vehicle because vehicles are down and, for either maintenance or whatever reason. And if you have an extra vehicle, say like if growth management needed to go somewhere or finance needed to go somewhere, or HR needed to go out into the field or something, that would be a vehicle for them to use. And that would be mainly available for the council, for you all to use, especially on the long trips and stuff where you're out of town for several days. I don't know how often, that would occur, but I know a lot of times, Mr. Hill, you're generally going for, a few days at a time. So that would be one vehicle that, staff would be counting on in the fleet that would be designated to the council.
But you could utilize it, we just in the parking lot.
No, so we can always find uses for them, because take Terry, for instance, she's constantly going and checking on the fence and different areas of things. The same way with other areas within the city hall. So we're always vehicle short. I'm not proposing to add a vehicle, but since it was brought to the attention for council use, and council has been using staff vehicles quite regularly for the last 2 years since I've been here. So there is a need, for the council to have a vehicle. But however, you all want to pursue that. I would have to question the rental thing, because a lot of times you can't get what you want, especially here in Lake City. And if you have to get it out ahead of time, and I don't know how the procurement process would work based on if we have to have a vendor or something, like with a contract with someone to be able to get vehicles on a regular basis.
And my concern is more of it just sitting out here, except occasionally every couple of months when we need it or stuff, but if you can use it, I'm good with it this way.
Yeah, we budgeted for the highest amount on the vehicle, depending on, like the SUV or something different. It would probably be less than this cost right here, if I'm not mistaken, because we went for the top to make sure that we could cover anything that the council may want.
My question would be, so now, when we travel, we take our personal vehicles, and then we get reimbursed for travel, am I correct?
Yes.
The mileage.
The
Yes,
mileage.
yes, mileage.
Okay. So, does it supersedes that,
Right.
or not? The
Yeah.
amount?
Yeah, I guess it would be more like, if you're thinking you have a long distance, like if you're going down to like maybe Orlando or something, I think Mr. Hillman, you were all down south this last time. In that case, you'd be using the city vehicle instead of your, getting reimbursed.
That's by choice, though.
Yeah.
It's not mandatory to use it.
Like you could just drive yours and get mileage.
Okay. So we got option one, option two.
Yeah.
That was- Okay.
Okay, anybody else got any questions on that?
Yes, I, go ahead.
Do you have another one on this?
Yeah, I'm not on this, I've been on this.
Go ahead, if you have something.
We had spoke about, the, entire council doing, a National League of Cities Conference. And I think pretty much the consensus of everybody thought that was a good idea. Did y'all, I didn't see anything on that yet.
Well, I don't know if Andrea put this in here, but we can always add anything that you wanted in it, just at the time that we can take away and add, if you all want something, add it into the budget.
Like I said, I think that would be a good idea. I think, the mayor, y'all did that some years ago, didn't you?
I've never been to the national, they did before my time.
Okay, I know, Mr. Jefferson, Mr.
George went.
Yeah. They went to one of the National League of Cities Conferences.
So would you all like that added in the budget for all 5 members?
I know, I would like to go.
If it's not mandatory, don't add me in there.
When is it, do you know?
I don't know, don't add me. Count me out.
I'd be interested in the information on it. I mean, I think it could be beneficial, to go for sure.
I can look into
Cause we're already in August, and I don't know if it'd be.
I mean, it wouldn't be this year, but next year.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe we can discuss that tomorrow night when we're back at it. Hey, Ms. Young, couldn't be here tonight, so, when I was talking to Audrey, I thought what we do tomorrow night before we start for the next, we get back to this and see if she has any special questions tonight. Okay, is there anything else on the council? All right, let's go to city manager. Anybody got any questions on that?
Were we, yes, Mayor, if I were here, were we ever able to find a grant writer?
No, sir, we haven't got one now, and as you'll see on the budget, the it shows 0, but what we did was move the grant writer out from under the city manager, and we'll probably place it up under HR, because those are two that work closely together, or finance.
Anything else? All right. Next, the city clerk.
Mayor, did we change the title record coordinator to record management supervisor?
That's what, I think that's what it is on that last page there.
Yeah, I was just,
But yes, sir, that is what's being proposed, Ms. Sykes.
I saw some, one other thing, I saw something about fitness stipend. Can somebody explain that to me?
That is in Ms. Sykes' contract with the city, that was approved by city council. That's her stipend.
Okay. I'm going back to that fitness stipend, because, so it's just for Ms. Sykes, maybe for her assistant, or maybe
Just her.
it's just her?
Yeah. Anybody got anything else? Anything else on the clerk? We'll move to human resources. On contractual services that went down, what was that before? It was 36
That
and
was
then
the
it started down to
compensation
5.
study.
Oh, that was on that compensation study that was.
Oh, okay.
That was different. That happened first last year. It's always been. Okay. What it was, so I made it sure. It's where it's supposed to be. It's
Anything else on human resources?
if I call, just make sure, hey, it's a little bit more, because that's what my call.
Legal.
Mr. Mayor. So on this, I have a question on the current charges, which are, I believe, the notice in the paper. That increase there is just due to rate changes, is that correct?
Basically, rate changes.
Is there a way, I mean, the state's given us an opportunity that we could put that on our webpage, would that be something we could do and save that 27,000
We'd
a
have to
year?
look into that, that's population based, and I'd have to look and see if the city would fall within the parameters of that. I believe the county is too large. But I'd be glad to look into, it wouldn't take a little bit to look into that, but we could, obviously, if we can claim ourselves from that procedure, then we can reduce that line item either,
That would be a pain.
now or, as we go through the year.
Is that, is it the small counties that get to do the online stuff and all?
Yeah, and I know that I want to say we discussed it in another context, and we advised, I believe it was countywide, that the population was too great. Like you say, it's a statute, so I mean, I could look it up probably tomorrow and come up with an answer on whether the city itself would qualify. But that is
Also,
an option if you're.
are there any other outlets to do that advertising? Because, I mean, a monopoly, you can see has raised that thing 42%. I mean, that's,
Not for Lake City, there's a,
by the
there's an
advertiser.
avenue in Live Oak. But Lake City is right now, the Reporter is the only newspaper offering the statutorily required legal advertising.
They've been pushing for several years to get it statewide that people could do the way, but it hasn't gone all the way through yet. I think this year, it was a small
We
county,
keep a newspaper.
I think it'll happen pretty quick.
Well, I do know that, we were allowed to remove our, like boil water notices and things like that in the utility side. We don't have to advertise them in the paper anymore, based on DEP rules, as long as they're advertised on, several social media outlets in different areas. But I'm not sure about the legal aspect of, the legal documents and details.
Yes.
I'll check on that, Mr. Sampson.
All right. Departmental.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
So I think the one, and I've mentioned this to Mr. Dow already, is the Hutton properties. So just an answer on that would be, I know you guys are already working on it, that'd just be my only question on this.
What's that?
Well, the 3 years tax abatement, whether or not we actually owe that.
Okay.
One other question though on that, so on Werner Trucking, are we only, that abatement's only on the parcel that's in the city? Okay.
Mayor, can I bring up one thing? The fire special assessment transfer, that's what we advertised for. If we choose a different assessment rate, then that transfer amount would change. So that's something to consider.
Have you advertised at 300?
Yes, sir.
Is that from the scenario one?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Angie, how soon do we need to make a decision on this?
We would need to discuss that tonight.
We'll get to the fire, I guess.
Very good. One other one, the council might want to look at is on the transfer of the water sewer. The 268,000 for the Price Creek 24-inch water main that was designated from the ARPA funds.
Right.
I honestly did not see that coming to fruition, so, maybe that money could be allocated to another water sewer project or something else, but I don't foresee this one ever being done right now,
Which one now?
so. The sewer at Price Creek.
Price Creek.
24-inch water main.
Very good.
So the county's building a, water plant and sewer plant out there.
Yeah.
There would be no need to, for the city to extend the water line in there.
So we can leave it in the budget like this and then just reallocate it.
You could, or, just leave it as a line item, and change it to something, a miscellaneous water sewer project, that if the council comes across something in town that, that we can do,
So leave the number there, but just relabel it.
if that's what the council would like to do.
I think that's a good idea if that's your recommendation.
Yes,
Is everybody good with that?
Good with it.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else? Yeah, I think that makes it a lot easier for y'all to deal with. If there's nothing else on that, we'll move into finance. Any questions on finance?
Mr. Mayor, I have a question on that. So on the employee change, I see we're adding a grants program specialist. Would this person also be a grant writer or just a facilitator of a grant that's already there?
the grant writer as well.
Okay.
Yes, sir. That was by the recommendation of our HR director to just change the title. It's still doing the same job duties.
Anything for finance? Okay, next with IT. Sure.
Have we found the, IT director yet? Or have you started announcing, advertising?
Yes, sir, we've had it advertised and it closes, I believe, tomorrow.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question. So on that, with the new director, are they gonna be doing, I know with the previous director, or the one we had before, we raised the salary based on the job scope. So will the new person be based on their experience, or are they gonna slot into the same, amount roughly?
It'll be based on their experience.
Okay.
But he was actually doing two jobs, but
Yes, sir, Mr. Benedetti was a, rare individual you find to, come here with the skill sets that he
Yeah,
had.
exactly.
That's one reason he was compensated the way he was, because like I said, he was doing two of the, jobs at one time.
we're gonna have to hire two people.
We're gonna evaluate that when we go through the hiring process and we look at the applications and look what we have in staff. We have very capable staff in the house, so I think it's gonna be a fairly smooth transition. I think everything will be good.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? Procurement.
Mr. Mayor, I did have a comment that applies to procurement, probably three biggest areas, procurement, safety, human resources, as you'll notice, last line item there is an increase in training.
Yeah.
That's commendable because especially in those three areas, the more training you have, the less you need legal, talking yourself out of a job kind of. I think that's very important. So it's in good hands with D, getting spread thin, but, training areas, especially those three, will end up saving the city money, down the road in other areas, including legal.
I've noticed in the other, there's still quite a bit of training in here, and I think that's very important for people to have continued training. Got to stay up with it. Procurement's going down from 43. There are reasons why we get by with the threes and the four.
Yes, sir. Generally, the, approved clerk was, on the ones that fall either part-time or the clerk.
Yeah.
With the caliber of staff that we have now, we're actually getting more production with less people. So, after discussing with, Mr. Johnson and we have come to the conclusion that we're actually doing more with less, so there's no sense in having something that, we don't have anything for them to do, so.
Okay. If there's nothing else, we go to the vehicle maintenance.
Yeah, I was looking at the, Max, 2023, it was 76.4, and 24, we got a budget for 90,400. Can you explain, just a little bit about that, if you may?
Yes, sir. Well, automatically it includes the 3% for two employees, but, during the year, we had a couple of individuals that stepped up and were awarded some merit increases, so that's what that money goes to. With our fleet, we only have two individuals in the fleet.
They do a really good job out there. I was just wondering about that salary, that was it.
because of the expense that the whole covers.
So when you take into account what these two individuals do for the whole city, when they used to have a full, though they had several individuals in the fleet before, so now you got two individuals that are pretty much servicing and all the equipment and everything for the city and taking care of vehicles. So they're actually saving the city money for the effort that they put in, so. And we felt that they needed to be rewarded a little bit for that, so.
General building.
I just have one question on that one, Mayor. Repair and maintenance, it was 32.9 and it jumped up to 101.9. That's a steep increase, of course. If I could get someone to explain not only to me, but the constituents out there that's paying taxes every day, why did it jump from 32.9 to 101.9?
One of your biggest things you'll see in here is building repairs and air conditioning repairs. This is an old building, and for the foreseeable future, until we get through the budget process and look at what we're gonna do with the new city hall, you're gonna have employees and staff in this building. I would say, even if we had another something ready to move in, you're looking at probably another year or so. So we wanted to make sure that we had some extra money in here to cover any expenses that may happen. Everything from the elevator to the air conditioners to the pipes to anything that may happen.
Okay. Anything else from general building? Next is police.
And Mayor, if you would refer to the handout that you were given for the police department, we ran some new numbers, and we found that the overtime was actually added twice in here. So that's why the figures on the printout that you have that was laid down in your dais doesn't match what's in the actual budget book, because we just corrected that this afternoon.
Okay.
So this is the actual,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, may I add something to this? I just want to let the police department know that you can't put a price on keeping the city of Lake City and Columbia County safe. So whatever they increase, some areas decrease, hire more people, I just want to let the chief of police and his staff know that I am 100% in favor of whatever he has here, he's asking for. Let's try to get that done. On top of that, it's such a big budget. You know, don't get me wrong, but I just want to commend the staff, the chief and his staff, for doing the job that they're doing. So whatever budget that they used for 2023, and it went up to on 2024, I just want to commend them for that. So make sure you let the chief know that whenever you get a chance, okay?
One thing I would like to cover, Councilman, is that as far as the police department here, our officers are the lowest paid anywhere in this area, even Live Oak, and that's eventually going to become a problem when they can go to the sheriff's department or anywhere else and make upwards of $10,000 more than they do here. So at some point, it's going to have to be addressed to see what we can do keep retention here. I just wanted to make sure that, you all were aware of the problem that we're facing of being able to keep and maintain quality officers.
Mr. Mayor,
To go for a raise, but also like
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
You have a comment on that?
Sure.
So last year, when we did the review with the union, this will be the third year we're entering, our officers were actually making more than the county for that short period of time, and the governor came in and gave state money to the sheriff departments to pay them more. And we never adjusted for that. So if you look, there's about a $12,000 gap on the entry level between our officers and the sheriff's department doing the same job. So I do think we should address that. It's a costly thing to address, but it has to be done to take care of our officers on the street, especially going forward, because if you get good ones, you definitely want to keep them. You don't want the good ones to then go somewhere else. And we would be like a training department. So I think that's a good point. Also, I think the morale has changed dramatically in the police department in the last period of time since our new chief's taken over. And I think it's outstanding the work he's been doing. There's more to do, but I think it's changed quite a bit.
Yeah, we don't wanna spend our money training people to go somewhere else.
That's right. I would be interested in seeing what the difference would be in the budget to at least be to what the sheriff's department is. And then figure if there's a way we could fund that perhaps out of the ARPA funds. I know that was allowed. The only concern is ongoing revenues. And so do we have enough we could fund it and then figure out where the revenues come from? Obviously, if we could annex in more properties, then we could offset that revenue, but it's something we need to address sooner rather than later before we get too far behind and we're, an employee of last resort for officers.
To add on to that, I definitely agree with you. And it's very, very difficult to find, great or good officers. And money is one of those things that you can definitely get some good people, you can keep some good people at that time. So I'm all in favor of seeing exactly what the budget would be and giving those officers a raise up to the sheriff's department, at least the sheriff's department, or the surrounding areas. And these officers has been doing a very, very good job, and it's almost like Walmart. They do more, but they get less. They get paid less. So whatever we can do to assist them in that matter, I'm all in favor of doing just that.
Mr. Mayor, I have another question about that too. So I know we still have the communication officers there. Is there a possibility that we'll be able to be on time to do anything on dispatch or?
If everything keeps going in the direction it's going right now, the information I've been told is probably you're still gonna be looking at after the first year.
Okay. And I think it's incumbent on us as we do this, if we can merge that dispatch, that we work with those funds that it frees up to allow the chief to hire more officers for the street, because that's one of the things we need. We need more feet on the street, especially with what's going on out there now. So that's just something to keep on your radar as we go forward into the new year.
And if we don't have a full staff, then we pay overtime. That's it. All right, anything else on the police? We'll move on. Safety and risk management.
Mr. Mayor. So I see in this department, we're adding employees, is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's what we were looking at based on past practices and the amount of claims and the amount of accidents that we had throughout the city. And and different, litigation aspects that would really be beneficial to have two people within that department. Because you always have one person that's on call 24/7. Because if a wreck happens in the middle of the night, they have to go out, take pictures, do everything to get everything written up. And then dealing with FMIT, dealing with the insurance companies and everything else. Typically, you pretty much got one person in the field most of the time, and probably one person doing most of the paperwork, getting everything filled out. That was kind of the direction that we were going. That's why you see the rise in personnel services and stuff. And there again, it's brought before the council to, if you all also.
Yeah, that was my only question as well, Mr. Sampson. It went from 63.6 to 133. And I anticipated, that's where that money was going towards another staff. So, that's important, for sure.
Well, that department was completely deleted in the past, and it should have never been deleted.
Yes.
All right, anything else? Public Works.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question on this. So, I know we've discussed, it's been a while on the lights. So in the past, didn't we get some funding for that also from the county? Or we got some funding from another source, I remember.
DOT pays us to maintain traffic signals and the lights and stuff. They pay us, and then we pay, usually it went to these, to the payroll. But as you see, we've been able to eliminate based on contracting that out. It's worked very well. I mean, Mr. Brown's here if you want to elaborate on it, but from what we've seen since we went to this, we basically haven't had any issues, any problems. This company has been top notch, and we're actually been able to save a little bit of money by going through them and not having to do it in-house. And they're very responsive on anything that happens.
Speaking of that, it made me think of something when you said that. I've got a couple calls on 90. There's some lights there at the interstate going west and east on the other side of the interstate that aren't synced up. So you'll get stopped right at the overpass and the next light and the next light.
Yeah,
If we could do something on that to
that would be great.
kind of help the flow there, because it's really not cool sitting there a couple times through. I know you are getting the calls too, so just since he mentioned that, I thought I would throw that in.
That is actually Ingram. They're doing the maintenance for DOT. We did have that discussion the other day, and they're supposed to be working their way that way, timing those
Perfect.
lights. But it is a big problem out there right now.
Excellent, thank you, thank you.
Any other questions on Public Works? Now, this is where you kind of said you all backed off of some projects and all for next year because of the cost of materials and all that.
Basically, public works and in utilities.
Yeah.
I would like to make one comment before we leave public works. I mean, we need to recognize these guys out there. I mean, they're getting beat up every day. We're getting calls every day about grass and, I mean, we're basically mowing almost 24/7. You know, with all this rain and the heat, we're not able to keep up with, you know, what we have. And we just got our inmate squad back last week. And we're trying to stay, but the city's in a rotation system. You know, like if we mow the cemetery this week, it'll be 2 weeks before we get back there. The grass is already up. So I just want the council to understand when you get those calls, these guys, these team members right here, they're busting it every day on these boards, trying to keep up and keep the city looking good. You know, we're always welcome calls if we find an area of the city that needs something. But these team members are doing everything they can out here in this heat and everything else to keep everything up. And they're actually doing, in my opinion, a very good job. Grass is grass, you know it yourself. You mow it, next week it's already up. But we have so much to mow that they can't keep going, they can't stay in one area all the time. So if you get any calls on that, I just wanted to give those team members a shout out that they are doing the best that they can, and we're trying to stay on top of it the best we can.
I really appreciate everyone getting out there and doing that. When I first got elected, I had some calls about grass and all, and them guys put me in the car and looking around town, checking how much grass they mowed, it's unbelievable.
And with that being said, you know, getting those inmates out there and rotating it around. My thing is, the inmates will definitely be there because they want to get out from behind that fence. They want to come out here and mow and get this city where it needs to be. But rotation, sometimes certain areas get left out for some apparent reason. You know, I got the call about the cemetery. Their parents' grave had grown up, and I think I called you on that. And the next day you had somebody out there. So I just don't want to miss that rotation of how those inmates and those public works are going out mowing that grass. I think one of the preachers was talking to me a few weeks back, and I called Mr. Johnson up and told him about it, and the next day or day after that, they had somebody out there mowing the grass. So I just don't want to miss the rotation of what we're supposed to be doing. So that's important. And it is hot out there, so make sure that those the staff members is very, very hydrated. Safety is my number one concern. I don't want anybody out there to get hurt. I want everybody to go home to their family. So that's important.
We have just one inmate crew.
And how many is that?
5.
So it's one staff member to every 5 inmates, is that what it is?
I'll let Mr. Brown answer that, because we just got them back. Because they put some new restrictions on us as well.
Yes, sir. So the way that I actually divide it up right now, excuse me, we have 1 inmate, or 1 employee for 5 inmates.
Right.
Prior to this year in COVID, we used to get a guard. So we had 2 guards and 2 inmate crews.
That's right.
After that, they wouldn't allow us to have the guards back, so we've had to dedicate an employee to actually maintain that 5-man crew. We lost them for about 4 weeks, but the city is divided into 4 sections: northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest.
Okay.
We got 2 crews mowing, so it usually takes roughly 2 weeks per section. That's not counting cemeteries and all the extra areas, the football field and all that stuff. So those crews are responsible for mowing each of those designated areas, plus the other areas. So whenever they were having to do, we had no inmates, we were bringing our asphalt crew and our concrete crew in and having them supplement us. So that's the reason why we were running behind. But right now, we have 1 employee for 5 guards, or 5 inmates.
Don't say guard. Those are correction officers.
Correction officer, correct.
Guards is not there.
Yeah, we don't have any of those anymore. We're having to supply all that in-house.
Yes, sir. But guards is not the appropriate thing to say, guard.
Okay.
They're not guards. They're correction officers.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else on public works? All right, public assistance.
Mr. Mayor, I got several things on this.
Yeah.
First, and I know a couple years ago, we added the promotional events at 20,000. But, you know, several years ago, they went from 20 to 25,000 to the chamber, and I see now we're proposing 30. Talking to some people who have been involved at the chamber in the past, those were for specific events. And my understanding is, other than the fireworks, none of those events are being done anymore. So I don't know exactly what we're paying for. And I think the plan is, I don't know if Terry's here, I think the plan is for them to are they stopping the fireworks? Or, I know they're in talks to not do that anymore possibly.
Yeah, I was told. And I think Joey's here too with the chamber, if we wanna talk to him as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So, this past year, you know, we were asked if we wanted to take on the fireworks. It was really late notice and there was no way we could do that. But we are considering, we did do our, Independence Day celebration downtown this past year. And we're not able to have the fireworks, but we're wanting to incorporate either a light show or a drone show. So that would be something that the city would do. If, but now, I'm not sure if the chamber is still gonna be doing the other fireworks.
So in the past, we were funding, I think, the Christmas event, and you have, you know, you probably have all of it in your mind right there, and I can't remember it.
You mean for,
All the stuff we were funded through the chamber.
through the chamber, yes. Joey sent me because I reached out to see what all that entailed, and I can make y'all a copy, but they have the Independence Day fireworks at 15,000. Gateway City Craft Beer and Wine Festival for 10,000. The Christmas card lane is 1,000. Santa in the park is 1,500. Replacement light bulbs 750, and cornhole tournament 500. And relocation packet request 1,250.
So I saw we went from 25 to 30, and I don't know
That
exactly.
would probably be something Joey could.
Okay, so that's a
answer
request
for
from
you.
them? That probably would be.
Yes, this is the request,
Okay,
because when we got the figure, I reached out to see what it entailed.
Who's gonna be putting on that cornhole tournament? You know anything about that?
I don't.
Joey would know?
Yes, I do the city events, and I do have, the different city events that I would like to hand out to y'all.
oh yeah,
To, where you'll see what we have planned.
tons of events.
We do, we
There's
have
a
a
lot.
lot. We're adding some new ones this year. We are adding we're gonna do a city cleanup and a, multicultural fest. It's gonna be a celebration of cultures, and and trunk or treat. We are gonna bring trunk or treat back downtown.
And that's part of that 20,000, correct?
Yes, for all of these.
See, I could see your budget growing and possibly shrinking the other budget, depending. But because to me, I think we get more bang for the buck when we do it and we're involved in it. You are the one
And I
doing it.
am, this past year, I kind of spread myself thin. So I am reaching out to different organizations and churches. I'm still over the event, but a lot of them are coming in, like the Rotary came in and helped me with the Independence Day. And they have tons of volunteers, so
That's right.
that really helped me, and it also helps Public Works. We don't have to have those guys coming in and making overtime, things like that. So I am trying to find some organizations to help us with all those.
Yeah, that's good because it'll leverage that 20 into a lot more when you get those volunteers on the ground.
And if you don't mind, I'd like to pass that out to you where you'll know the dates
Sure.
of all these upcoming ones.
When you have cleanup stuff, leverage the Boy Scouts too, because the
Yes.
guy said after that last meeting, they're willing to do it.
Yes, they're on the list for that.
Anyone that says they'll volunteer, grab them.
You wanna talk to the chamber about the, why to go up? I think he's the president. He's over it.
That'd be great.
Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, so our one biggest increase is fireworks, and that's strictly because we hire a licensed pyrotechnician. So he's a professional, he brings it in. Since COVID, quite frankly, the costs have gone up about 30% to even have fireworks. That cost is really split between you guys and the county, but that does not include, for instance, we've already got the quote for 2024. Fireworks are $28,500. We kind of split that cost between you guys and the county. That does not include the special insurance we carry, just have fireworks, porta potties, any assistance from law enforcement, marketing or those other things.
That makes me think of another question. So in the past, looking back through the old documents, it used to be that the chamber carried insurance for all the events that we jointly put on. Are y'all doing that still? Like you do the insurance for the fireworks and like the craft
Yeah,
beer
we carry
festival?
our
Okay.
insurance for that. Yeah,
So anything we work on together, y'all would
absolutely.
y'all would carry the insurance. So the reason for the increase is for the cost of fireworks. Now, I noticed the county's not giving y'all, well, at least proposing 7,500, it looks like.
No, last year they gave us 10, and this year we're requesting 15 from them as well.
Okay. They're meeting tomorrow, I think. But so you're gonna get 10 from them,
We're asking for 15.
asking for 15.
What are you asking from us?
30 in total, but 15 is allotted to fireworks.
So 15 from them,
Yes, sir.
and what from us?
15.
So that's 30.
And then the other 15 goes to the, which I didn't see the letter, but the list that Terry was just reading, that's
Right.
the other items.
So so collective, it's a little bit different. The county technically earmarks 10, we're asking for 15 strictly to fireworks. With the city, it's different, it's just $30,000 for the chamber. This year we provided the breakdown to let you know what your money's actually going to. 15 is allotted to the fireworks, 10,000 is allotted to the Gateway City Craft Beer and Wine Festival. Quite frankly, that 10,000 goes to the city being the entertainment sponsor and the swag bag sponsor. So every VIP ticket holder gets a bag, and has a city logo on it. And then other things like we replace the light bulbs for downtown every year. Full transparency, that was an agreement long before I was ever on staff at the chamber, and we've just been doing it ever since then. That provides Santa in the park. That's the house, the decorating of the house, and then a volunteer who commits to 9 nights every December. The cornhole tournament, which the first year we did it was downtown and it was fantastic, and then rain got in our way the last 2 years, or I think the last year. And we plan to bring that back downtown this year.
Who put that cornhole tournament on for you? Mike did?
And I was gonna say, we also hire a professional to come in and put that cornhole tournament on, because Ricky can tell you, or Councilman Jernigan can tell you, cornhole's an industry that's way over my head, and we farm that out to somebody who can do it better than we can. And then another request that we've added that the county also does is relocation packets. Since COVID, the amount of people who call the chamber or stop in and say we're moving to Lake City, it's probably 7 to 10 people a week. And that just helps us cover the postage because it has not slowed down at all.
Well, you say that cost to put on that cornhole tournament was $500?
That strictly pays Mike for us.
That is way too much to put on a cornhole tournament. I'm just here to say. And I'm not gonna support that at all.
Okay.
I won't give you that 500 if I had anything to do with it, because 4 hours, $500, that's just too much. Usually when we put on cornhole tournaments, and of course, you know, I'm a professional cornhole player,
Right.
and we put them on all over the United States of America. And I've been to just about every state playing cornhole. You can actually cheat it out. But anyway, I would say, you know, a couple $100, if that, would be more than enough to put on a cornhole tournament. And again, you guys don't know. What you don't know,
Right.
you have to pay for it.
Right.
But I'm here to help the city understand that putting on a cornhole tournament for $500, whether you get 2 teams or you get 500 teams,
Right.
you pay the guy that's too much. And we will not support that. At least I would.
Good try.
Yes. But I'll participate in it.
For sure.
But you can't win.
No, I won't win. I'll give the money back. When I win, I give the money back.
He got close this year. Very close.
Yes.
Okay, that's all the questions I have on that.
We have any questions on this topic of assistance?
Thank you very, very much
Thank
for
you.
what you do.
Okay, and then I did have questions on other things here. So I know this is 3 of 4 of the quarterback club. And Terry explained the promotional events, which I think she does a fantastic job on, by the way. If you've ever attended any of them, it's pretty amazing. That we have the 30,000 for the undesignated programs, which I think that's where we took the basketball, football, and put them into that. I know we're gonna get a request from Richardson, I saw their budget here. One thing I would like to see is have money available for programs. Now, how we're gonna, how it works out to fund them into the future, or what apparatus we're gonna use to reimburse programs, I'm not sure we've decided on, I don't think we have. But I think we should have some money sitting there for doing programs, otherwise we're gonna have to figure out where to get that money from in the future if we decide to do them at that point. I know last year we had talked about 100,000 less the, police involvement, and I know that the chief had that in his budget, I think it's still in there to provide that for the next year, looking at it. So that would be almost, I think it leaves about 75,000 roughly if we were gonna do that. Now, I'm not saying we agreed to that, because we didn't, but I think we should have that amount at least set aside in case we do decide to do that. I mean, I was looking like, for instance, we've supported, as far back as I can find on the budget, we've been doing senior services at 75,000. I don't know, I mean, when you look at that compared to their overall budget, what the county provides, do those funds go to city residents? I can't tell you. I mean, they don't provide us anything like that, I don't believe, unless you've received something recently. They have very good programs, we need the programs in the community, but at the same time, I mean, if we're setting that aside for them, we could definitely set aside something similar for, the youth program.
I think that's I would, yes, I would support that as well. Putting some monies aside, and again, the money we set aside, I just wanna make sure it goes for programs and not nothing else. I'm not in favor of it going somewhere else if it's not going to programs. That's important.
Well, and I think the piece of that that's gonna be most important is figuring out how, one, what programs do we wanna fund, and being clear about it up front, and then having the apparatus in place so it's not confusing to the staff, what we're gonna do with it, cause we could really tie them up, and then, they can spend a lot of time trying to figure out what are we reimbursing, what are we not reimbursing. And so I think if we, and as a group, we need to come up with how do we want to pick the programs, what programs we support. I think if we're more focused, I think that would have a higher success.
I think you're right, we need to decide among us what we wanna do, and then that comes to us. That's right.
Yeah, and I'm not saying we couldn't partner with the group and say, hey, you have the ability to do these things, this is the one we wanna do, or something of that nature. But I think if we go ahead and budget for it now and be prepared, that would make the most sense to me.
Mr. Dow, we had money set aside this year to do some of that, I think, and we only did a certain amount the other day. Will that be a carryover from this year if we don't do any more?
If that's what the council wants to do, yes, sir.
So we wouldn't have to change this budget, we could take that carryover and put it in there?
But would have to be added to this coming year's budget. Like
Yes.
Mr. Sampson said, you could add whatever amounts you want to.
It would be the prior year's surplus that would balance it, basically. So
Do you know what that is,
I believe in the general fund, it's 26 million.
surplus?
Yes, sir.
What about, what do y'all think about like setting aside maybe 100,000? In that undesignated, and I'm not talking about specifically just for that, we got the 30,
Okay.
so it add another 70 to that. So if you look, there's 30 sitting there undesignated programs, and the reason for that is too, think about Hooked on Heroes as well. I mean, I've got their thing, so if we wanna fund something there, we don't have to go through budget aerobics to make that happen in the future. It can come from that number. So say someone comes up and we decide, hey, we're gonna do 2,500 there, then staff would already have a mechanism to just fund it without having to figure out where to get the money from.
Okay, I could definitely see us doing that. because there are, a lot of, but we do give to the public, we do, when people come up for assistance, like, for example, Hooked on Heroes, then they wouldn't have to jump through hoops, they'll know exactly where to get the money from, so I'm in agreement with that.
Well, and I think it goes a step farther than that, then staff could even come up with an application process, which I think Terry Phillips already has worked on. I think I've seen an application which would even vet in advance so that we would be, prepared up or down vote to move on. Instead of having people come and make a presentation, then make a second presentation, and, to me, that would make the most sense. Would that work for you guys?
How much we wanna add?
70, make it 100 instead of 30. Is that what you wanted to see?
Yes,
Then all the federal assistance.
yes, and you did say something about Hooked on Heroes, you said, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
One more thing before we get away from that. I noticed, and this is just a comment, I know we have an agreement with the Lake City Animal Shelter, Humane Society. I was looking through, one budget's not enough to look at, so I started looking at the county numbers, and it looks like they're defunding that program. So just keep ongoing communication with them to make sure they're still gonna be able to service us, because my only concern is we were a small part of that overall budget. And we've got to make sure they're still able to provide the services from there. That's just something I noticed recently.
Just to let you, the county's looking at, proposing an interlocal agreement, where, if we need their assistance, they'll provide it. If they need our assistance, they'll provide it. They're not, best I can tell, they're going to co-locate their, holding facility, I'm not sure exactly what you call it, on the grounds of the Humane Society. I think they're gonna make improvements to a part of that property with the Humane Society. And they'll put their, facility there to hold their animals. But Joel is supposed to be getting me some information on that, to where we might consider doing something with an interlocal agreement with the county. But that's all I know at this point.
Okay, because that brings up another question about ownership of the actual animal, which I know after 3 days, even though they have them, I believe we own them. I'm not sure how that's taken care of in the contract.
Yeah, I haven't seen any paperwork. I was just given heads up that I would be getting something, and then I'll pass it on to the manager.
That's a hole you can throw a lot of money into in a hurry if you're not careful, because we don't want to run it in-house, I don't think. Mr. Powell, you want to run that in-house? Chief of Police want to run that in-house? Yeah? I don't think so. I don't want those calls.
All right, next is, garbage services, and that's just kind of a wash. That comes in and gets it out. I have any questions on it? How much longer do we have on that contract?
1 year,
Replace road?
next December, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, you were looking at that. Yeah, I was supposed to look at this so we could see.
All right, next is food management. Lake City report, match $53,000.
Yep. It adds up in a hurry.
Yeah.
The only clarification I have on that is on overgrown, or the demolition of the structures, the cleanup of the parcels, that relates to parcels that the city would take in and would own, correct?
It's good process.
Yeah, because I don't think we want to be out there cleaning private property. They can figure it out on their own.
So it'd have to go through the process. If something came in to be demolished, it would have to be, go through the court system. And the city would have to take it over for the ones to clean it.
And then hopefully there'd be revenue to offset that, because at the end, when it's cleaned up, we can sell it back and get the revenue. I mean, seeing what some of these lots are selling for out there, woo. It's crazy.
Anything else in there? Growth management. Next is COA.
Mr. Mayor, I had a couple of questions on this one. I noticed we still have the 757 for Wilson Park Amphitheater. Is that moving forward currently?
We got waiting for one last permit from FDEP. Swanee River signed off on it. It's been sent to DEP and just waiting on them to sign off the permit.
Building stuff over water's not fun.
I hope we don't ever do that again.
Tourist development had some money set aside for us, and they still kind of have it, but they just don't keep it from the budget, so I think we still get some money from
Yeah, they can bring that back to the table. So with the undesignated projects funds for the CRA, I know if we decide to build a meeting room onto the current city hall, could any of those funds be designated toward that as well, since it's in the CRA?
I had Ms. Moore look at that, and she sent me some information, and I forwarded it on to you.
Okay.
Basically, the way it kind of reads, it says it can be used within the CRA district for community facilities. I mean, I would consider that to be a community facility. We're still researching to find a little bit more of the language on it, but from what we've been able to find, I don't think it would be too much of an issue. Which I hadn't read all the statutes and so forth. If it says anything that would enhance the community, it does say facilities, community facilities, and I would consider that a community facility.
that. Anything else on the CRA? The next one is fire. And we have a handout on that. That's where we had proposed scenario 1. That's where our budget set out, that's right.
Yes, sir.
When does that mailing go out?
I believe it's the 18th.
I knew I hadn't received any calls yet, so. I mean, it's kind of hard to, I know we agreed to that scenario 1 for the mailing piece of it.
As I looked over the fire department and got a clear understanding of how this process worked, I can tell you this, our chief back here, he's really thorough in what he's doing, how he done it. So I just want to commend the chief of the fire department for sitting down with me and explaining to me step by step how this process works. A lot of people don't understand that, how it works, and he did everything he could to not raise, to take away, but yet still, there's some things he had to do. Some things he had to do to protect us, the citizens of Lake City and Columbia County. So I just want to commend the fire chief on what he's done. I just want to commend him for that. So I don't have too much to say about the budget. I think it's pretty good. I see where he's getting additional 3 staff members, taking it up to 33, and it's well needed. When I call the fire department, or whenever you call the fire department, those guys don't hesitate. They are on the spot when it comes to doing that. Have a wreck out there on 90, wherever the wreck is. Those fire department, the staff members are very professional, and they get the job done very, very quickly and thorough. So whatever we have to do to make sure that he gets this budget through, I'm willing to assist him in that matter, because again, I went over this budget with him a week or so ago, and I looked over it ever since I had this thing, and I was just looking at it. I'm like very, very impressed with it. So I just want y'all, you can relay that to the chief if you don't mind, sir. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
So there's 5 scenarios that fund that budget, and that's more what I was thinking we were being asked, because we agreed already to the budget of 3.183 million total expenditures, but there's 5 different ways, or 4 different ways to fund that. And so that's the question is, are we gonna have our constituents pay an increase from 240 to 311 to fund it? Are we gonna increase the general fund contributions to fund it? How are we gonna fund that budget? I think that's more what they're asking us tonight is, currently people are paying, if you own a home, you're paying 240. So are we gonna ask them to pay 250, 274, or the 311 we sent them in the mail? This process, once they get those letters, you'll start getting calls on that. And so I think that might be more the question that we have to address.
So we currently pay $252 per household, so it's a $60 a year increase to get to the 311. We haven't done that we haven't raised it in 6 years. So if we would have done it every 2 years, because we have to do a study every 2 years. If we would have done it small increments every 2 years, it would have been a $3 per month increase each year. Now we're at 9. So we've kind of gotten behind the 8 ball on that, and the county has done the same thing. Last year they increased theirs $50. This year they're increasing it $16. So they're right at about the same amount of what we're trying to do to get ours covered. So just a thought. We have to do this study every 2 years.
Definitely call our county commissioners about that.
Yeah, absolutely. But they did raise theirs $50 last year, and they're looking at $16 this year. So.
And I think that's the question. So the scenario 4 is the one you mentioned, if we kept the single family the same. I know on the study, there's different ones we could raise based on the study, because they can't pay more than the cost. You guys are the professionals on that, but there's some rule where we can't say, hey, the commercial properties can carry the whole burden.
Correct.
So I noticed in the different scenarios that you guys presented, there was one where, single family stayed the same, but we had an increase in multifamily, but not really much in commercial. I didn't know if there was a way you could pick on that, where you could say, hey, single family could have a smaller increase, but you could take the 19 cent from this one scenario for commercial and roll that over.
So when they do the study, they break it out, I think, how it has to be due to the call load. So I can't go in there and change and say, we're gonna charge the multifamily more, or the commercial more, and we don't run that many calls to them. It goes on the type of calls we run and how many calls we run to those specific occupancies. So that's how the study is done. Now, one of the things that I presented to each of you was possibly the next time we do this is a whole different idea, and going more on a percentage of what your house value is. That way, if I live in a $500,000 home and my neighbor lives in a $60,000 home, we don't pay the same fee. I chose to live in a higher.
Now, the real value or the SOS values?
It would be whatever the assessed value is.
Yeah, I'm not for that, because if Ricky's lived in his house 40 years and yet it's still worth, say, 400,000 or say 200,000, okay, but your neighbor just bought a house and they're assessed at what they bought it for, why would you pay less than your neighbor? I don't like
And
that.
I'm not saying like I'm talking about like the tax assessment more
Yeah.
than anything. I mean,
Yeah, property assessment.
I don't see that somebody that's had a house that's been passed down through their family for 100 years that values at $25,000
Exactly.
paying the same as me in a $500,000 home. I just don't see that being fair, but that we can't do that this time.
I agree, but conversely, you've passed down your family through generational wealth you built up through 3 generations ago. Why am I paying more than you next door because I've worked and built and bought something that's cost more?
I don't disagree.
Yeah.
As the fire chief, I have to look at resources.
That's right.
Can I put this fire out?
Annexation,
Right. Can I put this fire out with 2 trucks and 4 personnel?
that's
And
right.
then my house at $500,000, I need 6 trucks and 18 personnel?
And the tax structure built that way.
So I feel like there's different ways to look at it. But at the point we're at right now, because we have gotten behind the 8 ball, I feel like we've got to do something to offset the general fund contribution. Somewhere, something is going to have to increase. So
It's just hard because you're weighing out, I mean, it sounds like very little, but $60 a lot to some people, you know, that's struggling when your grocery bill's gone up, the gas bill's gone up, the water bill's gone up. It's just a catch-22 on that. I don't like raising the tax, I can tell you. I mean, that $252 is too much to me as a payer. You know, when you're talking to people, now, do we want your service? Yeah, we want the service. We want to fund the service.
right.
So it's balancing out, you know, how do you fund the service? But at the same time, because ultimately the taxpayer's paying for it regardless. So a lot of people feel like, you know, hey, I haven't used the service, I'm paying for, same with the tax that goes to the school board. But you know, it's just gotta be funded. So how do we do it? Is scenario 1 the way we're gonna do it, which is raising the taxes on people substantially? I didn't get to look through the report with you as much, I think, on some of this, but I think there's gonna be a way to do it. I'm just not sure that I will sign off on that raise on scenario 1. I mean, that's up to the whole council, but I didn't know if we were making that decision tonight, not decision, but recommendation.
Well, we had to choose one, just
For
like the military. We
advertising.
have to have one to
Yeah.
advertise. And we can choose anything in between that, we just can't go higher.
Now, what you did say the other night was if we go anywhere than scenario 1, they gotta do another study.
Above it. If we choose above it, correct?
Above
We can
1.
choose below, anything below it, but we can't choose above it. They would have to do something again.
That's right. So like any 2 and 6 are off the table unless we, is that correct? Because that's what we advertise. We advertise 311.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, we have gotten ourselves in a situation because of the years past, but it's gotta be done. I mean, we don't have a choice. So, I'm not for raising taxes either. However, if it's gotta be done, scenario 1, I'm in agreement with it, just because we've been behind the 8 ball, now it's time for us to get it right. There's a lot of things we got behind on the 8 ball, and now it's time to get it right, and coincidentally, we look at the fire chief, he's a professional at this, so I'm all in for whatever scenario he wants us to go in. Because it has to be done, we don't have no choice.
Which scenario did you recommend?
So I think we all agreed on scenario one as much as possible. Because that kind of levels out the contribution from the general fund and what has to be done, what has to be contributed or paid from the general fund from exempt
This
properties.
gets us back where we
Correct.
Yes.
Kind of balances us out. And then we have to think about this for the next study, if we're gonna change it or we're gonna stay with this in the next 2 years. Instead of waiting 6 years and then putting ourselves in the situation we're in.
So in 23, the general fund transferred the 638. That was the scenario 6, I believe. Or not 6, but which scenario is that on here? Scenario 4, basically. Is that correct?
Scenario
I gotta get new glasses.
Yes, no.
Okay, scenario 5, there it is, 638. So even with that scenario, there's an increase in taxes, even if the general fund contributes the same amount. I think the one that didn't have an increase was the one where we actually would increase from 638 to the 689 from the general fund.
I don't think we're ever gonna find it.
Well, 300,000, I know one place to pull that real quick if we ain't gotta pay it.
Yeah, okay.
I can think it too, Mr. Hill can think of one too. But, I think that's all the comments I had on it or questions
Okay.
on it. I think the budget's reasonable, the 3.1 million, I think that makes sense. I think this is gonna be a fight going forward every year though. It's just the nature of the service provided. And as Mr. Jernigan's gonna find out, your piece of the budget gets more calls than any other piece when that bell goes out, which,
Right.
you know, you parse it as being $60, you'll see.
Yes.
It's the only other budget funded by a tax, so.
Exactly. And I think that's why it's top of mind for people, because that's the one they got in their hand and saying, what the heck are they doing to me?
Right.
Whereas the other, when we change the police budget, the ad valorem, yeah, you get a call on that, but you change the police budget, you don't get the same response.
Yes.
You're in a unique circumstance, that's for sure.
Yeah, they used to do rescue that way.
You gonna do rescue?
If you let me do transports, I can have an income.
Well, that is true, there is income off of it, there's also
It's the
more
only-
headache.
The only income is the transports. You're gonna have the headache on the 911 calls trying to bill all that out. There's no money there.
Yeah, and get reimbursement, get paid, and I could see doing transport,
Those cities.
getting a private service, they really like that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But tonight, we need to make a decision, right?
We can't make any
Yes,
decisions.
well, you can't make a decision, or just give, you're just giving the staff direction. I know Ms. Young is not here tonight, so we can also bring that up tomorrow in the beginning of tomorrow's meeting
Okay.
and get us, get some direction.
All right.
Is there a contingency if we choose a different scenario where that difference would come from? And
I was gonna add it to the surplus. The surplus would cover it.
the problem is if that number gets too close to 0, you got a problem.
back to that tomorrow.
Tough decisions we gotta make.
Yes. Okay, airport. Kinda takes care of itself.
What you see over there, airport.
Now, you got anything on the airport?
I think everything's good with it.
Okay, I didn't see anything. I got it on the airport.
I got a question.
Uh-huh.
You said, did they get that, piece of equipment out to you the other day? What we use, that mulcher? That,
That's, the paperwork's about to be finalized, and we'll have that out as soon as it.
oh, okay. I saw one the other day and they was bringing it back. I said, well, they must be just leaving the airport, so I guess not.
No, that's, they're just north of town here,
Yeah.
just north of 10, so that, they do have one on site that they can bring out when we're ready for it.
Anything else on the airport? Okay, that's it. Next is CDBG. $27,606.
Is that on your next, is that on tomorrow?
What's tomorrow?
Your agenda.
Okay, so we're stopping here.
I just wanna make sure if mine stops at airport, I didn't.
Ma'am,
You see your
Airport
agenda.
construction would be the last one.
Anybody got anything?
Airport construction would be the last one.
Yeah, airport construction will be the last. Airport construction.
No,
It's a separate tab.
no, that's a separate time.
Yeah.
So,
We can still group some of this.
Yeah. I think we have an airport construction.
yeah, we do.
I think
Yeah,
I
it's a
see
separate,
it
it's right in front of the water.
You want us to put that one next to that one should be coming up next, so. That's what we stopped at?
You wanna go ahead and do airport construction tonight?
Yes, sir, we could. Get all these out of the way, the debt service as well.
So you're gonna do CDBG? Or just airport construction?
Huh?
You just gonna do airport construction?
Yeah.
Debt service is next, I think.
Are we gonna get that? Okay.
Yes.
I'll change it in my book, Mayor.
All right. Okay, anybody got anything on debt service? Pay the bills. Don't really have a choice on that. Sales tax bond fund.
Basically, all the sales tax bond, basically showing the mayor and council is that, basically, you get that 1.8 left in that account.
The only question on that is that's kind of designated for a building project if we use it,
What sort of
for the city hall specifically. So if you took that and the other 400, if we decide to do that, that'd be about 2.1 million. That might, I mean, until you know what you need though, we don't know what the cost will be, but whatever it is, it'll be expensive because you can't build anything inexpensively.
Airport construction. Pretty much FAA and FDOT money. They've been good to us over the years. Questions on airport construction? That's where y'all want to stop? That's where anybody got any comments or anything further that we need to get into tonight?
Mayor, all I wanna say is, I appreciate everybody that we talked to tonight and what they've done. And, just keep up the good work, keep being professional, communicating everything back to the councils, and I think we'll be fine.
Yeah. You've done a good job. This ain't an easy job.
No, sir.
Say we're adjourned.
What you guys do, I'll let you know, last night, I was shot up in the north end.
Because it
I'm trying to
Automatic license plate